I feel like I've just made love to 40 some people. And not only made love on some fundamental spiritual level, but had orgasm with every one of you. Forgive me if that's not what you were looking for, but I will tell you the feeling is so powerful. Now, one of you was left without completion. And it was not hard. It was not hard to love you. It's just the opposite. It's so easy to love you. And yet, what I feel from so many people is I'm not worthy of love, or I'm just not worthy. And that's a terrible obstacle in spiritual practice. Because so many people are drawn to spiritual work because they don't feel worthy. But it's the very fact of that that makes it possible for something to happen to turn that around. My brother came to class once and he said, "Yikes, why would I want to sit with all those losers?" And I looked at him, and I don't want to define loser as anybody particularly, but all I knew is that anybody who arrived in the doorway of my home and came up to the class was anything but a loser. They were finders. Everyone who comes to class is a finder. And everyone who comes to class is worthy. Not only that, honestly, there's nobody on the planet who's not worthy. It's the discovery of your worthiness that really is at the core of this practice. And the real problem for almost everybody is you're looking for demonstrations of worthiness in your achievements, in how you present to the world, in your sort of bodily egocentric persona, that has to be worthy. Well, forget that, because nobody's worthy on that level. We're all piles of shit, really. I mean, we're literally shitting all the time, consuming food and shitting. What's worthy about that? You know, it's just we are entities. We are entities in a materialized world, and we have found ourselves here for reasons honestly nobody truly understands. But we are here, and we do find certain things in being here that are rather special. Good food, people we like or love, sex, a beautiful painting, a really wonderful piece of music, a walk outside, family, maybe, one another. We find these things in being here that make it feel like, okay, this was worth the journey. The deeper you go into that feeling, the more pervasive it becomes, and the more you realize, not only is this really a pretty amazing, decent place, it's kind of beyond understanding. It is so extraordinary in its mere existence. The fact that we have a body, the fact that we are a being that can feel and experience life and touch it is so remarkable in its genesis. The fact that it has happened and that we are part of it is an extraordinarily remarkable reality. And most of us walk around in a daze thinking about, can I go to the supermarket without a mask? Or, I don't think anybody thinks that anymore, but can I go do this? What can I do, to get through my day? How do I live? How do I keep entertained? How do I keep distracted? How do I fill the time, all this time? Should I just sleep? Should I just do drugs? I don't know, whatever people choose to do. When in fact, if you slow down and you stop and you get to this period of not knowing what to do, that's kind of ground zero. that's like, okay, now anything can happen and will. The unknown happening of life is remarkable, as witnessed by this sudden transformation of the entire world community. Anything can happen. So now here we are, all forced into our private existence, into our lives. Even if we have a couple, if we are a couple or have a family that we're sharing this moment with, never have we been drawn more into this idea of just me. Now what? What do I do? What do I do? Well, one of the incredible things about life is things happen. If absolutely nothing happens, if you are literally in solitary confinement and nothing happens, this doing principle becomes very frustrated, because other than scratching on a wall or doing a lot of sit-ups, there's not a lot to do. So you got to just sit there. And what do you do when you just sit there? Well, I think you ruminate. Your mind goes to all the old places. And some of those places are worth going to. Many of them are not worth going to. And so you sit there and your mind goes into what might have, what was, what should have been, what might have been, all of these things. And it's a lot of mind stuff. And it sets off emotional reaction, which can be very big and really pleasant or unpleasant, and probably both. And then you come to a point where you go, enough of this, and yet it won't turn off. It just keeps going. And so you have this emotional ragtag play game in your brain of discomfort, seeking for the things that will give you pleasure. So maybe you can find some songs and you start singing, and you try all of your tricks, every trick the mind knows to keep you entertained and engaged when you're in solitary. And ultimately, none of it works, because nothing you're looking for is in the manifested world. The manifested world can give you a lot of wonderful feedback if you have freedom, life, an opportunity to move around and have exposure to all of what is given in this extraordinary space of life. But if you are in a place where that's taken away, and you may not yet be in solitary confinement, but you're certainly on the verge of it, if you go into solitary confinement, what does it ultimately lead you to? You're in this by yourself. That's what it leads you to. You are in this by yourself. You can have a partner, you can have somebody else cooking dinner for you or washing dishes or whatever, but you are in this by yourself. And ultimately, you are in solitary confinement. When you start to realize that you are in that space, and there's nothing more, no more memories, no more songs, no more anything you can think of to do to keep you occupied, you enter the beginning of the spiritual journey, which is sit still, stay, and watch what happens. If you have any inkling at all for what it means to be present, to show up, to just be, if you can begin to feel these non-thoughtful, non-thinking experiences of being, which have a kind of an emotional entry point, just go to where those things start to happen and go, it's just me. You can do this going on a walk. You can do this sitting in your apartment, in your house. You just feel this space and go there. It is absolutely barren in the beginning. It is barren. It is the worst, most boring, yikes feeling imaginable. Just this body sitting in a space, trying not to think, feeling, trying to let go of feelings. There's just this feeling of abandonment and aloneness and loneliness, and what is it for, and how did I get here? And imagine that combined with you're on your deathbed. Sorry to throw that out at you, but that is a real thing that's going to happen. You're on your deathbed and feeling all this stuff. Well, let's back away from the deathbed and just go, okay, I'm here not yet on my deathbed, but I will get there. And I may get there feeling what a waste, what was this, what did I do, what did I accomplish? All of that shit will start to come at you. And you have to be able to go, shh, sit, stay. Rudy said the equation for spiritual work is depth over time. If you sit in the shallows of your being, you will not achieve depth. If you sit here and you just wallow in the shallows, nothing will happen. But if you sit here and do what Rudy said, ask for help to surrender, ask to go deeper, take a breath, and start to penetrate the inner wall of your being, the part of you that feels completely closed to you. Just start to go in, just like you're digging a tunnel in a mine, looking for diamonds or coal, whatever you're looking for, digging deeper, deeper, deeper. Start to go in and do that work, whatever that is. Dig in yourself, and what will come is suddenly, in the darkness of that digging will be a ray of light. A ray of light. It may not be visible light. It may be a kind of ultraviolet light, if you will, but you will feel it. It will be, and it's deep inside you. Not only is it deep inside you, it is the very ground of your being. And if you allow yourself to open that up, to dig deeper, to go deeper over time, which means you don't just do it once a week or once a month or on your deathbed. Not a good time to start. You start to do the work now, and you open. And if you have time, which God knows we all do, if you have time, go into this space and let it start to flood the environment that you live in with this light. You will know it's flooding, not just with a visible brilliance around you, which may or may not happen, but you will begin to feel something coming through you that we will name, and I name it almost every week, gratitude, wonder, awe, open-eyed amazement at being. You just, it's a feeling, but it's more than a feeling, because it's a kind of, I know this space. I know it kind of when I go to bed at night. I know that's a strange transition, but when you go to bed at night, there is this incredible moment, if you're lucky for most of us, where you just give yourself over to this not being you, not doing, not functioning, not reaching out, going in. And it has that same feeling. You start to go in and you go, and you feel, thank you. Thank you for letting me in. Those of you who have trouble sleeping, I've started having moments like that. When that moment finally arrives, you go, it's not even there a you there to say thank you. You just feel as you enter it, a gratitude pulling you in, and then you're not there. Well, trust me, spiritual awakening is just like that. You feel this thing pulling you in, and then you're not there. You are gratitude itself. You are amazement itself. You are wonder. You are beauty. You are the very thing that's being witnessed. It is you at the source. You are the being that is all around you. So now we add to that equation darkness, pain, suffering. Yikes. What now? Why did that come into the picture? Why did these dark elements come into the picture? The whole world is full of philosophical conjecture about that. All of life is. But somehow or another, darkness, pain, and suffering accompany this journey. Interestingly, they are mostly there when your mind activates and when the world of solid matter experiences itself. That's where most suffering comes from. The thoughts about it add to that suffering. They add to stress, and we create an outer world that has all of that darkness in it. Well, clearly, it had to come from somewhere, And it probably comes from this deep well of being. And it projects itself outward so that we can witness it and know it. And why do we want to know it? Maybe because truth comes from that. Morality comes from that. We get to see the larger vision of our being, and our being contains light and dark, good and bad, yes and no, positive, negative. All of that exists, and we get to witness it in the material world that is a place of joy and suffering and very temporal experience, because it's all impermanent. We get this blast of what it means to be alive, to be in the world, to experience the wonder and majesty and terror, if you will, of being, and then it all unfolds back into this oceanic space of reality. And in that reality, interestingly, there is no separate you. There is only itself. And because there's only itself, the thing that suffers is not there. Even the thing that appreciates joy and beauty is not there, because all that's there is the very essence of joy and beauty and suffering. But because there's no two, there's no ability to witness it, you're just it. And in the end, the awakened souls tell us that that is the end of suffering, because the you is the thing that suffers. The you that gets projected into the world is the suffering element, but it's a bargain that gets made. I don't know how we sign on, but we do, to being alive and touching the beauty, having to know that the only way to know beauty is to have seen the ugly. The only way to know good is to see the bad. The only way to know joy is to feel sadness. We must have all of that. And the world is something we've all bargained to be in, and we all want to be here. And then there are moments in life, most of us have not had them before, but there are moments in life that stop the world completely and say, look, take a look at what all this is. Take a look. Now what? This is one of the great opportunities to stop, sit, stay, feel who and what this is and what you are. But again, the formula depth over time means this isn't a weekend practice. This isn't a 6-week practice. This is a life's work. And either you're willing to commit to it as a life's work or you're not. If you are, there is something we will call the reward, which is waking up to the non-permanence of your ego-minded bodily reality. It's completely impermanent. It's going to be taken away. I don't know that we signed a contract, but the bargain was, let me have life, and at some point, I know you'll take it away. You'll take away everyone I love, everything that was good. You'll give me pain and suffering, and the doorway out is not fun. That's an odd arrangement. On the other hand, I use the idea of ice cream. Would I sign on for this if I could taste ice cream? I think I have. Ice cream is like one of the great joys of my life. Hugging my wife, seeing you guys. I can't explain the dramatic joy that comes from that. Is it worth everything? I think so. The only real problem is pain is complicated, and the suffering and the departure from life of letting go of everything is really, really existentially terrifying for everyone. But let me say this, and I say this from someone who hasn't died yet, at least in this lifetime. You don't know death until you're there. Death is a projection. Even suffering is a projection. We've known what it tastes like, and we project it into something in the future, but reality is really interesting. Reality is reality. When it's actually happening, you can't prepare for it. All you can do is open to it. And in a way, real meditation practice is preparing for greeting the present moment. And how do you greet the present moment? With absolute openness, um, appreciation, gratitude, even if it's a moment you don't want. It's a moment that has arisen for its own purpose. So I'm trying to say your death, your finality, will arrive in a way that nothing in your mind can you prepare for it. There's nothing that can make you ready for it. And if you spend your time projecting it, you're going to create your own drama around it that has nothing to do with what really will be there. I can only tell you my experience of sitting still and going inward and seeing the unmanifest, seeing this world of vast, containing, uncontainable universe of love and joy and fear and drama and all that stuff within, and witnessing it in the moments I get with no Bruce attached. It's an indicator of something awaiting all of us. That somewhere at the end of the biological, physiological experience of our being, there is something greater. And to walk around fearing it, living in denial of it, feeling it in the back of your mind, dragging you all the time, no. This is a time right now where all of the background noise is going to have a chance to come to fruition, into appearance. You're going to start to see things in these quiet moments that you may not have wanted to see, the shadow stuff that's in the background. While all that is happening, you here, now that you're in solitary confinement, take it on. Take it on. Sit with this stuff. Look at it. Don't intellectualize it. Try it, beginning to kind of emotionalize it, feel it, just feel it, and then try to take it deeper. Take a breath, ask for help to surrender, move inside, and watch the source of that stuff reveal what it truly is. There's an ocean of being that has as its predominant quality love, truth, beauty. Those are the ingredients that I would give it. If you go inside, all of this other stuff goes in and gets reabsorbed in that space, as well as your sense of yourself. I've been so amazed watching my own life, because my whole life has been really kind of a wonderful life, coming out of a very sweet, loving family, somehow having a dream that was way beyond any kid from Detroit, realizing that dream in terms of career, in terms of possibility, having a wife and a family and grandchildren, I couldn't want more, having comfort in my life. I've watched all of that happen, and yet all of my attachment to it's happening. My entire childhood, my entire life story is like rarely referenced at this point. I don't walk around as somebody who has done something or did something. It's like beyond my interest. I am this moment. I am this moment. Whatever this moment is, somehow or another, laid into the fabric of my life was learning how to go deep in myself and how to learn to open to myself and then to love what arose in front of me. And what has arisen in front of me now is crazy. It's sitting on a screen in a Zoom class. What the hell are we doing here? I'm just sitting looking at pictures of you, and I am totally in love with each of you. Totally in love with you guys. I just cannot express it or explain it. This is reality. Who I was, how I got here, what was, is no longer really meaningful to me. It just was. What's in the future? You tell me what's in the future. Does any of us at this moment in time have any clue whatsoever what's in the future? Meaning what you're going to do when you turn off this Zoom thing? Nobody. The most you may know is you're going to make dinner for yourself or somebody else. You may go for a walk if it's not raining. You don't know. You don't know what the future is. You do know this moment. Sit still. Sit still. Be quiet. Feel. And at some point, You're going to get hungry or have to go to the bathroom. Or maybe you'll want to listen to some music. Or maybe you will just sit there and go, I'm going to sit another few minutes. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. There comes a moment, we'll call it the orgasmic moment, where you are suddenly so full, so complete, so happy, so satisfied, so deeply connected to your deepest biological being. And you'll just feel wonderful. And then you may want to read the newspaper. I wouldn't recommend it, but or a magazine, or listen to something. You know, the Metropolitan Opera has this streaming thing right now where you can watch metopera.org. It's I watched a lot of it yesterday. Just these amazing opera singers at home, just like us on Zoom, singing their hearts out for us. An entire orchestra playing, everybody in their own home. An entire chorus singing the Nabucco, the aria from Nabucco. It's so, I mean, there must have been 100 people on the screen, and they're all in their own place, all creating this glorious music. What do I do? You do what's in front of you. If the TV says there's a great show on, go for it. If there's not a great show on, sit still. Sit still. It's not terrible. If you're in solitary confinement, you've got to figure it out. You have to figure out, what does it mean that nothing is available to me except me? I'm telling you, it sounds like a punishment, but it's a gift for the few rare people who are able to take that kind of stillness, that kind of retreat, and that moment like we're all facing right now, and use it to find this space that will be there your entire life, and I would even say beyond that. Use your solitary confinement for depth over time. Grow, expand, experience the wonder of what it means to be you. And if this thing comes up inside you that you're not worthy, I'm telling you, once you discover the ocean of what you spring from, that you bring into the world, what you have always been part of, and part of your job is to manifest, that's where worthy comes from. You are the bearer of worthiness. And if you don't feel worthy, it's because you haven't sat long enough and gone deep enough into who you are. Do that, and you will be worthy. You will be welcoming of that worthiness. You will be very humble, because you realize you have nothing to do with it. You are an emanation of this wonderful being. And you will recede back into that wonderful being as something that never really was separate in the first place. You will go back into you, and you will be you at the deepest place possible. So rather than repeating this unendingly, this is the moment. You're under house arrest, you're in solitary confinement, and it's an opportunity to discover your true worth by going deep and doing the work, and in the end, recognizing how grateful you are for what's revealed, and living in gratitude and sharing that gratitude with all you know, anyone who comes in front of you, and realize that whatever comes in front of you is yours, and it's the gift to be dealt with, whether it's conflicted, whether it's open and loving, whether it's expected or unexpected. What's in front of you is yours. Open, love it, embrace it, do what's right by it, and you will have the most remarkable life imaginable under any circumstances. Done.